Learning how to master your mind is the number one skill that you need to develop if you want to become a conscious creator in your life. If you don't have this skill, you're effectively powerless to make any real change in your life. Welcome to Stumbling Towards Enlightenment. This channel is all about the pursuit of self-mastery, personal growth, and how you can become a conscious creator in your life. In today's video, we're going to be looking at why it's so important that you learn the skill of self-observation and strengthening your attention. We'll also look at what happens when you don't have the skill and the consequences that come with that. And finally, we'll look at some ways that you can start today to build that skill of self-observation and essentially become the master of your mind. If you enjoyed this video at all, please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Okay, let's get on to the video. Most people are asleep. They are fixated on the external things of the world, and they're not interested in introspection or looking inwards. However, I have seen this change in the last 20 or 30 years. More of the younger generation, I find, and some older folks as well, are turning to themselves for answers. If you're watching this video, then it's very likely that you are already observing yourself and are developing a self-awareness because you have the desire to develop more mastery over yourself, to consciously create your reality. The problem with being unconscious: when you live unconsciously, you are effectively blind to yourself. You have no self-awareness, so you respond from past conditioning to every event that happens to you. And these patterns tend to repeat themselves. Each day tends to bleed into the next. You react automatically to events. You have no control over how you respond. Instead of facing discomfort in your life, you run from it. You distract. You grab your phone. You turn on the TV. You eat some food, whatever. When you have no self-awareness, you don't notice the patterns within you, and so you have no power to change them. There's no space inside of you to notice your reaction to things. When you're a conscious creator, though, you have space inside of you to notice what's going on, and you can choose a different response. What happens when you start to harness your attention? When you start to harness the power of your attention, you start to become the master of your life. As within, so without. Through cultivating awareness of ourselves, we can start to notice when we're asleep, and we can bring ourselves back to the present moment. We can catch ourselves when we're in a negative thought spiral, and we can redirect our attention onto something that's powerful and empowering. And we can stop reacting unconsciously to every event that life throws our way, and instead choose our response to it. And what's more is, as you cultivate your ability to notice what's going on inside of you and stop responding negatively, you also start to impact the world around you. That's because when you stop reacting the same way you always did to a certain person or event, you de-energize that cycle. You take yourself out of that cycle, and so the other person cannot respond in the same way. It doesn't cause you to react the same way. As you stop creating negativity in yourself, you also don't create negativity in other people. You start to become a light in the world, and you encourage other people to do the same. How to wake up. Now, not everybody is ready or interested in becoming self-aware. Oftentimes, this process happens on its own, but there are certain things you can do to help move yourself along a little bit faster. First thing to do is to start becoming really curious about your inner experience. Check in with yourself as often as possible. What are you feeling? What are you thinking? How do you feel in your body? Notice what's going on inside of you. How do certain events trigger you? Notice when you're checked out and you're mindlessly doing something. Use that as a cue to bring you back to the moment. This is something you're going to have to do a lot because your mind, it's like a wild animal, and you have to train it to sit. Also, pay attention to any forms of negativity within you. Whenever you're feeling negative, that's a sign that you need to stop and look inwards. Check yourself out. What's going on inside of you? Pay attention to any form of negativity that you feel inside of yourself. This is often a sign that there's something going on inside of you that you need to investigate. Notice when you want to escape from the moment. You might feel the urge to grab your phone, go to the fridge, turn on the TV, whatever. When you feel this desire to escape, that's also a sign to stop and check in with yourself. What are you feeling? Develop the habit of getting curious about yourself. Don't beat yourself up if you fail at this sometimes. It's okay. This is a process, and if you fall down, that's okay. You just get back up again. Personally, I find one of the best ways to connect with my inner experience is through feeling, and specifically the energy or the emotion that I'm feeling. Feelings and emotions are always connected to thoughts, and you can always trace the emotion back to some underlying thought process. Thoughts and emotions really are two sides of the same coin. Start keeping a journal and use it to download your thoughts. Whenever you're feeling stuck or negative, grab your journal and just start writing. Don't censor yourself. Just write. The only thing you need to worry about is not worrying about it. And the more you write, once you start writing, you find that more thoughts just kind of come out onto the page. Journaling is a great way to learn about yourself, figure out what you're thinking about, how you're feeling. The more self-aware and the better understanding you have of yourself, the easier it will be for you to start to change these patterns, notice when they're there, and to make change in your life. It can also be really helpful to have systems or rituals in place to help you to refine this skill of attention. One of the best practices for this is meditation. Now, a lot of you guys might be rolling your eyes or hating the notion of meditation, but even 5 or 10 minutes of meditation a day is great for developing the skill of self-observation and strengthening your focus. When you create a space of silence within yourself, you allow space for thoughts and emotions to come up. You learn about yourself. You discover new things about yourself. You commune with yourself. This practice of self-observation will give you so much clarity about what you need to look at in your life and what you want to change. Taking moments out in nature as well is a great way to disconnect from the busy world, find peace in nature, and get to know yourself better. Leave your earbuds at home. Don't bring any music. Be out in nature with yourself. You can also use meditation apps. Some of these apps you can set a bell to ring a few times an hour to remind you to come back to center, to be present, to notice your breath, to just check in with yourself. Finally, you might also be called to look into a spiritual teacher or literature or talks on the subject of mindfulness. One of my favorite books of all time on this subject is Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. This was a game changer for me and really opened my eyes up to what it means to be self-conscious. So in conclusion, becoming the master of your mind and developing the skill of harnessing your attention is the number one thing you need to do to become a conscious creator. If you're not conscious of yourself, you're essentially living on autopilot and you're blind to your patterns. When you start to wake up, you become the master of your life. You start to be able to choose how to respond to events and how you will perceive life. To develop this skill of self-observation, start to get curious about yourself. Check in with yourself often. Start a meditation practice to familiarize yourself with your thoughts and your emotions. Keep a journal to better understand yourself. Use discomfort and the feeling of wanting to escape as a cue or a signal for you to look within. And experiment and find what works for you. The idea here is to put systems in place to make this a regular practice. There is no one right way to develop your self-awareness. Everybody comes to this at their own time. But developing the skill of self-observation and controlling your attention will move you that much closer to becoming the master of your mind and a conscious creator of your reality. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share it, like it. Also, if you didn't catch my last video, I recommend you check that one out next. It's all about how beliefs determine your destiny. So it goes hand in hand with the idea of self-observation and attention. I'm Dave, and thanks so much for stumbling towards enlightenment with me.